Today's session, we're going to be looking at support plans. Your support plans include risk management as well. And if you remember from previous training sessions, iplanit is highly configured, a highly configurable system. So we've built this system specifically for Outward. So what we're going to be looking at today, I'm not here to teach you how to write a support plan. You all know much better than I do. We all know that Outward have got some great support plans and some great support staff. So I'm not here to teach you how to write them. I'm just going to be going over where they sit in iplanit, what they look like, how you review them, that sort of thing. So what we're going to be looking at today specifically, we're going to be looking at how to create a support plan. We'll be looking at, including adding content to a support plan. We'll look at the risk management section within the Outward system, which works slightly differently to other iplanit systems. Show you how to edit a plan if you're just making some updates or some changes, and then what happens to that data. What publishing a plan means, the plan sign-off functionality, how to review a plan, looking at plan logs, and then also archiving a plan. So basically, the life cycle of a support plan that you would have for one of the people you support. So today I'm going to be using your test system again. So it should look exactly the same as your live system, just without any actual live data in it. I'm just going to log in. I'm going to be logged in as a manager today, or as an admin, so I'm going to have a lot of things turned on. So if we've got people on this call from slightly different roles, your screen may be slightly different. For example, you may not have access to all of the reports, you may not need them for your role, you might not have the same alerts, etc. But the principles for support planning apply to every role. A support plan looks like a support plan, whoever's logging in. So the support plans sit within each individual's record. So I'm going to use our test person. We're going to call the man again. And we go into the Work With Me button, and now we can see the different parts of somebody's plan, or well, somebody's records, including the media and outcomes, notes and logs, calendar that we've already looked at. So I'm logged in as a manager at the moment. So I can actually, my settings allow me to record a new plan. And I can also see unpublished plans and published plans. So when you're recording a new plan, you simply click the record a new plan button. An unpublished plan, it's the same as a draft plan, basically. So it's a plan that's still being worked on. If a plan hasn't been what we call published, what that means is that the person supported can't see it when they log in. So if we go to the start of the process, we'll show you. So we're going to add a new plan. So when you're adding a new plan, it's nice and simple. Outward have configured a really nice iplanit system here. There's not too much confusion. There's only one type of plan that you can create, and that's your Outward care and support plan. Some systems, there may be more than one support plan type. You might have one for learning disabilities, one for mental health, for example. But you've only got the one, so it's always going to be that selection. When we're adding a plan, it will automatically set the review date to a year in the future. If you've got an individual, let's say, where you're actually keeping a closer eye, or they might have got complex needs, or there's some other special conditions in there, and you need to review it more often, you can just change the date from the drop down here. So if you want to review this in September instead, if I selected the right date, pretty good. So there we go. Look, you can just click through. There we go. We can review this in August now. The privacy, this just the same as we've looked at with outcomes and with the calendar previously. This determines whether this plan is visible to invited guests. It's very rare that a support plan would be set to be private. So we're going to say it's not private, because if a service user, if a person supported is inviting people to in their circle of support to access the records as well, if they can't see the support plan, there wouldn't be much point. But as you'll see as we work through a plan today, they can set the privacy for specific items. And the current status, that means, is it a published or an unpublished plan? It will automatically mean this plan is editable. It's unpublished at the moment. When you first save it, because obviously you've got to work on it, and then you click save, Oh, and then you get a warning because you haven't given a plan name. So the plan name generally is something that you can refer to. The plan name also the person will see. So let's say we're doing a plan today for Anne, for another person. We can say it's Anne's support plan, let's say, or it might be, new support plan. Just something that's going to be recognizable for the person as well as yourself. And now we can click save. So this person has already got a support plan in place. So this is iplanit just checking. Are you sure you want to go ahead and create another plan? They've already got one. In most cases, at this stage, you would probably click cancel, go back and look at it. But for today, we're going to say that's fine. We're back creating a new plan. Okay, and now it takes you straight through to the unpublished plans page. So you can see I've created this new plan here, completely new. If I go back to Anne's main record, you can now see we've got 2 unpublished plans, 2 draft plans. But when you create a new plan, it takes you straight through to this page. So then you've got each of the, so we can see Anne's got 2 plans here. In real life, most of the people supported by Outwards would only have 1 active plan because you only have 1 plan type. If you've got more than 1 plan, you probably need to have a look into it and make sure you're not running off an old one or something like that. I mean, we've got a little bit of information at a glance. We can see when the plan is due for review. We can see who it's been assigned to. It's depending on the device you're using, you can switch the view from tile to list just with these buttons at the top here. You can see there's no archived plans in here. This is only the unarchived active plans. So we'll have a look at the menu, etc. a bit later on. Let's get into the plan itself and see how it's structured and how it works. So I'm not going to go into the one we've just created. I'm going to go to one that's been previously created because it will already have a bit of information in it. So if we go into the plan sections, here we have your outward support plan, broken down into all of these various sections, all the way down. So you've got a nice comprehensive plan for each individual. Now you may notice above each section, each icon there's either a little yellow line or a red cross. What that means is if there's a yellow line above it, that means that section has got data in it, has got some information in there. If there's a red cross, it means there's nothing in there. That's quite handy for staff because it lets you know actually this plan might not have been fully completed, but also it lets you know what the person can see. So if there's no data on this side, on the staff login side, then it won't pull through to the person supported side. So let's say we've got end of life plan here. If somebody doesn't have an end of life plan, that section's not going to appear when the person logs in. They're not going to suddenly get freaked out that they've got an end of life plan and that they're dying or anything like that. It helps keep the support plan personalized for the person without being, it's impossible to create a separate support plan for every single person. But we've got a structure here and only the bits relevant pull through. So that's the best way with a digital system that we can personalize it. It's a really good function that you won't see in very many places. So let's go into a support plan section. So we'll go into the introduction, all about me. So this is a nice, simple plan section. This is just an informative rather than instructive. It's telling you something rather than telling you to do something. So if you want to update the system, add some data, add something into their plan, you just click add plan item. There we go. So this section is all about me. So you can say I am, I don't know, let's have a quick look. You might have a bit of background where I'm originally from North London, which I am, even though I'm in Yorkshire, and moved to Yorkshire in 2018. So you can see I've kept this nice and brief, nice and short. I'll explain why that is. I'm not telling you how to write your support plans. This is just how you write a support plan. What you put into your support plan and is up to Outward. But I tend to recommend keeping sentences short and written in the first person. The reason being, this is the person's support plan and they're going to read it. So you've got to make sure it's accessible. Someone with a learning disability needs to be able to access that, be able to understand what's been written. Outward have been using iplanit for many years, so your support plans will mostly be in place. So that's fine, the support plans that you have. But as you go through the review cycle, just bear that in mind when you start to roll out the person portal. So this is a nice simple section. We've just got a little bit of a text box, and then we have private yes, no. That means the person that you're working with, the person whose support plan this is, can say, actually, this isn't private. I don't care who knows this. So you say, no, that's not private. If you said, yes, this is private. So yes. So the privacy settings relate to what access a person gives to their invited guests on their portal. So we're going to say, no, this isn't private, and we save there. And then now you're starting to build a support plan. So we want a bit more information. You say, I am very close to my parents who live just up the road, whatever. Obviously, your support planning will be much better than this, and this is only informative. And now you start building up your support plan section. So as you navigate through a support plan, there are different ways. You can either go from section to section. So I started on introduction, all about me. And also in the next section is my life history. So some of that information I just put in actually probably would be better here. It's my life history. So in life history, you can see we've got a slightly different way of entering data here because we've got a drop down at the top. So this drop down is only visible to the staff. These are like prompts for the staff. So when you're completing this section, have you covered off everything that you need to cover off? So they're just reminders. These headings don't pull through to the person side. So let's say places I have lived. If you just put London and Yorkshire, it's not going to make any sense to the person because they can only see this. They can't see this. So if you want to edit something, if you want to update something, you want to change that, you click on edit. So now you can say, right, okay, you want this to make sense. I have lived in London and Yorkshire. There we go. And just to answer Gifty's question there on the privacy settings, staff can view all the support plans for the people that they've been linked to. So the privacy settings only apply on the person side, not on the staff side. So if you work with Anne, who I'm working with today, you can see everything because you're a member of staff that you've been linked to. Only if you work with Anne and you've been linked to Anne, you can still read everything because you're the staff team. It's only for the person side to give them control over who sees what in the circle of support. I'll log right at the end of the training session. I'll log into the demo system as a supported person, and we will, and I'll show you what it looks like, just so it's clear. So now I can see this makes a bit more sense. Now, as you're working through a support plan, if you want to double check that you're writing in a nice, accessible way, it's nice and understandable. Let me just get rid of the test run. If you need to get rid of something, so we'll just highlight the line that we've got here, and we go to remove plan item. Done. Simple as that. So adding a new item, add a plan item. Editing, edit is edit. Removing a plan is removing a plan item. But if you want to now check, say, okay, we've filled in the support plan, you just want to check, is it nice and accessible for the person? What are they going to be seeing? Then you have a preview button here. So if you click on the preview, when Anne logs in and sees this part of her plan, that's what it's going to look like. So now you can see why I've written it like that. I'm not saying you have to write in single sentences. You might have a bit more information with a real life person. But just if you don't got, if you're copying, say, information over from a Word document support plan, and there's a lot of text there, just check the preview to see how it breaks down. Is it understandable? Is it accessible for that person? So that's what the preview button does there. But in previous training sessions, we also looked at uploading media. We show how we can attach media to outcomes, and we can attach it to the calendar. We can also do that for support plans. So I'm going to just try and choose something that's a bit more relevant. So I'm going to go back to home. We've got one on education here, I believe we do. There we go. So support with education and employment, let's say. So we're going to add an item. Where do we go? Attending college. So I go to college every Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm studying animal welfare because I would like to work with animals. And you can even put in, I go to, I don't know, I can't, where are you lot based? Tottenham, aren't you? So Tottenham College. Okay, so now we can go to save. We can see that now, we've said this isn't private, I don't mind who sees this. Now I can add a picture of the college that I go to. I've now attached that picture to that part of the support plan. So now let's see what is Anne going to see when they look in. Okay, preview. So now as you start building each section of a support plan, the different images there, really bring it to life, really make it accessible. And you can use these in quite ingenious ways. Remember, videos, pictures and sounds are visible on the person side. Any documents that you attach are only for staff's benefit. So let's say you might have a letter from the college. You might have had a letter from the college saying that, you know, I don't know, it's closed for 2 weeks or something like that. You might want to attach that if that's been uploaded into the document section. You can attach that, and then you get a little alert there that 2 things are attached. The person can only see the image, the staff can see the document, just saying, you know, don't forget to remind Anne that the college is closed because they're fumigating the place or whatever it is. And then you will just work through your plan, completing all of the sections in exactly the same way. It's really simple, easy to use. You can navigate with the previous or next buttons, as we said. Or we've got a drop down where you can flick through directly and just jump straight to, right, okay, let's talk about hobbies now. It's just, you know, and again, you've got these prompts. Let's say hosting parties, you know, I am very sociable and love to have barbecues in the summer, even though I live in North London and I've got a tiny balcony. And then we can save that. You know, you start building up that picture. And then remember, you see this heading here, again, if we look at the preview, that heading hasn't come through. So just bear that in mind when you're filling in your completing your support plans. This prompt is a prompt. You can't just say loves barbecues, wouldn't make any sense. So just remember that really as you get used to it. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of support plans already in place, so I'm not suggesting you go ahead and rewrite them all from scratch. They're still going to make sense to the person, but it's just something to bear in mind. Or we can go all the way back to home, and we can go through section by section. So as you work through the sections, most of you should be familiar with how it's structured and the information that goes in. And then you work through, you've got your positive support plans here, your green, amber, red. Again, the actual planning process you should all be familiar with, but we're just here to look at how it fits into iplanit and the processes to go with it. So the main section that's different to the other support plan sections, and also is different to a lot of iplanit systems, is the way Outward manage risk. So your risk assessments are really nice and clear and really simple in your Outward system, and they sit in this section here, risk assessments under the managing risk. It's got its own little group right at the bottom. So when we open that, we can see we've got a risk in here. I'm just going to get rid of this one. This is when I was practicing yesterday, so I'm going to remove that completely. Okay. So we're going to do a new risk assessment. You're all familiar with the risk assessment process. Again, it's an Outward process. How it works in iplanit, just the same way as the plan section, we're going to add a new risk assessment. So the first description you've got is the risk itself. So what are the hazards? So as you can see here, you've got some nice helpful text just to remind you what goes into what box. So this one, keep the title short and broad enough to capture as many of the risks in a particular area, i.e., so we'll use the example that they've used there, staying safe at home. So now you look at the hazards. Those hazards, you know, you can, let's have a look, you know, tripping over, you've got tripping hazards. Let's say if they've got a very cluttered house. That's actually the risk. So we're going to put, so we've got if someone's a hoarder, let's say, they've got a lot of clutter in the house, that could cause trips, slips and falls, or be a fire hazard, etc. So whatever, again, your own processes will kick in here. And then you have your risk rating, your risk scoring. So how likely, so if we do nothing, if we're not supporting this person, how likely is this hazard to actually happen? The likelihood, so let's say it's a very cluttered house. We know that Anne's could be a bit unsteady on her feet sometimes. So actually, it's quite likely that she's going to have a slip, trip or fall. If she did, how severe would it be? If there was no one there to support Anne, and actually, it could actually be quite serious. It's unlikely to be fatal. But now you can see we've got a nice high risk score of 16 here. Who's the risk to? The risk is mainly to the person, but there could be all. Well, actually, we're saying if the staff, let's say if we did nothing, so the risk is to the person. You could have other risks where, particularly around behaviour, for example, where the risk would be to the staff and the person, even if you are supporting them. So again, I'm not outward, know far better, and outward staff know far better than I do the best way to word a risk assessment and apply them. We're just showing you how it fits into iplanit. But you can see here, because this risk rating has reached a certain threshold, you've got a little warning has come up to say the plan will be unpublished until sign-off requirements are met. And I'll show you what that means. But I'm going to click save for now. So now it takes me straight through. Right, so we know what the risk is. There's clutter in the house and could fall over. So how are we going to manage the risk? And this is where we add your support, your control measures. So it might be, once a week, have a tidy up in the living room and bedroom. Ensure that Anne moves around the house with supervision or support when that house is cluttered. So, this is just an example for speed, really. Your actual risk assessments and your actual control measures will be much more detailed and much better than mine. So, but what we know about risk is you can't eliminate risk ever. Nothing you can do can get rid of a risk. You can only mitigate for it. So we're never going to say if we do this, nothing's ever going to happen. Anne's never going to fall over a pile of old newspapers. But what we're going to say is, if we help her clear out once a week and we make sure that she's moving around the house with a bit of supervision, the likelihood actually is very remote chance that anything's going to happen now. And even if she did, we'll be there to support her. So it's unlikely it would be that severe. So now we have a new risk rating. So this is your risk assessment now. It's all gathered up in one place. It's nice and simple, nice and clear. So we've got, this is the area that the risk relates to, staying safe at home. Now you've got your actual risk. Obviously yours will be a bit more detailed and a bit more useful than my ones. And then we've got, what are we going to do about this hazard? And it's all gathered up together quite neatly. This is our risk rating before. This is our risk rating after we do something about it. So you may have some external documentation. Let's say a social worker has sent you something that says, actually, yeah, make sure we, Anne is a hoarder, make sure we do this. You've got a letter from social worker, you can add that document here. There's no point in adding images, pictures, videos or sounds to a risk assessment because it doesn't pull through to the person side. You may have a picture that might be relevant for staff, but just so you're aware, none of the risk section goes through to the staff, to the person side. The reason for that is risk assessments aren't normally written in very accessible language, and they can sometimes contain information that wouldn't be very nice to read about yourself, particularly around behaviours and things like that. So the risk, and also risk management is the responsibility of the private owner, not the person. So that's really how we, that's how you add your risk assessment and your control measures. If you made a mistake, you need to update it. In the more options link here, you can either add an extra control. You might be doing more than one thing to control this risk, or you might want to edit the hazard and say, actually, this person's improved since the last time we did it. We'll say, actually, now that, you know, Anne's got a lot stronger, she's becoming a lot more independent, she's keeping her house tidier. So if we do nothing, the risk is actually reduced. You can save that, and now you've reduced your risk. And you can see here, we've now got a low risk, high risk. I'm going to set that back to high risk for a reason. Okay, we're going to save that. Okay. And that really is your support plan. And that's how, so you're building a support plan. You add your information that's relevant to each section. If you've got, so let's say it's someone who doesn't have a support plan in iplanit yet, or someone who's been referred over, and you've got a document, say from a social worker, or you've had a face-to-face assessment on paper or you know, in your system, you can copy and paste text into these boxes if you know rather than rewrite. You can also use speech to text in all of these boxes, even if you're using a laptop. I think it's Windows button and H will set dictate. Make sure you're somewhere quiet, otherwise you'll pick up everyone in the background asking you for a cup of tea. Okay, so that is how you complete each of the sections in exactly the same way. Add as much information as you can, just remembering always just to make sure, are we keeping this accessible? We can link, are we going to link media to anything? We're going to, let's say we're going to add a picture, we can add videos. Some of the videos are really useful. One great idea one of our providers does is on the communication section, we'll add some Makaton symbols or British Sign Language if someone's got a hearing impairment, which is a great idea. Or you need to change something, you can just go to edit, and that's it. You build up your support plan like that. And then the final piece, or well, depending on what order you do it in, you've got your risk assessment. And although it's a slightly different process and the person doesn't see it, actually doing it is not that different. You're still clicking new, filling in the relevant information, clicking save and moving through. And that is how you create a support plan. Including your risk management, that's how you edit or update a plan. So you may remember right at the beginning that we said that this plan was unpublished. So in this simple plan here, you can see, we'll just go into it, even though I haven't put any data in it. To make this plan published, i.e. it's ready to go, the person can see it, there's nothing else to write, then the button at the top, publish plan. So iplanit will keep a record of when it was done, who did it, and everything else. You've got a nice log trail. I'll show you how the audit log works. So we're going to say, actually, it's not draft anymore. We'll change the status. This will make it visible to the person. Are you sure you want to set it? Yeah, we've gone through this plan. It's perfect. It's not a private plan. I'm the main person for it. You know, I'm the main person. I wrote this plan. Update. Okay, so if we go and have a look at Anne's page now, you can see she's got one published plan, one unpublished plan. So Anne can see this one, Anne can't see this one, basically. So this is still a draft, effectively. So this plan, you can see, I can't publish right now. We have a little red pencil. This is a sign-off block. So when we were completing the risk assessment and we identified that something had a high risk, that means when it reaches a certain threshold, you can't publish that plan until somebody has signed it off. Someone needs to sign this off. So in order to do that, on the menu, we have sign-off requests. So let's say you've been completing this plan, you've had this warning, only certain people can sign off. So we're going to say, okay, I've done this plan, I've had a high risk warning, and I need, let's say Katie, we need Katie to sign it off. So we add the user to sign it off, and then we click save. Okay, and just click save there. Oh, I'll just close that. So that list was all the times that test has been asked. So now we still can't do anything with this support plan until the person we've asked to sign it off signs it off. So when Katie logs in next, she'll see a little sign like this saying, actually, we've got a sign off request for a plan here, and they can go through, and then they can double check, have we got everything in place? I'm not going to go through there into too much detail, because I look like a real person, even though it's a test system. But that's right, and then there's a button at the top. You press sign off, then you're ready to go. So that's a sign off request. That's what that process does. So if we go back to the plans here, we'll just see what else is on this menu. What else have we got here? So let's check the rest of the menu. So we've got sign off request. We've got that. We've got to print the plan. We don't like to print anything if we can help it. If you're still printing lots and lots of plans, then there's something could probably change. You can print the support plan with the outcomes as well. We've got a custom report there. Plan sections, that'll just take you through to the main bit of the plan that we've already seen. You can delete the plan. I wouldn't recommend that you would delete plans, but unless you've made it's a duplication, you created one by mistake and you don't actually need it, you can just get rid of it. If you have created a new plan, let's say you've started again, you don't want to get rid of your plan, you can archive this plan. That way it's gone, but you can always go back to it. You can see it's archived here. And then if you want to bring it back to life, you can unarchive it. Really useful, let's say, if you've got someone who's leaving the service for a long time, but then you didn't expect them back. Maybe they're going on holiday or going away for 3 months. Or maybe they, and it's quite useful for respite services, things like that. If someone only comes for 2 weeks every 6 months, you can archive their plan, and then unarchive it when they come back. What we also have is logging. So what that gives you is an audit trail. So you can see here, this plan has been created and published. If I go back to a plan that's actually had some stuff done to it, the other one we were looking at. If we go to logging here, this is really useful for managers especially. You can see every time someone has read a plan, so when it says step, that means section. That's each step of the support plan, each of those sections. I can see who read it, someone's updated it, someone's added some new ones, but even down, I've removed some information, and you can see here everything that's ever been done to this support plan, time and date stamped, and login. So even down, I can see that I read a section, I opened a section to read, 11:33 on the 11th of May. So you've got a really nice, thorough audit trail there. So if you ever need to do an investigation, you can check if someone's made a mistake on a support plan. You go, oh, I can't remember when I did it. You've got a nice log here. You can go back. Oh, there it is. I remember doing that. I updated this. Now you can go back. I updated state for home. Right, that's what I need to fix. So it's really useful, and you can filter that down. You can see right, who's deleted what. Everyone who's deleted anything, every time something's been edited, every time something's been added, every time it's been read. So you can do it by okay, who's read this plan in the last 2 months? Blah, blah. So there's a really nice audit trail there, really handy, gives an extra layer of safety and protection from a quality auditing point of view. Just to explain what some of the other icons mean. This just means it's a sign-off block. You can't publish this until the right person has signed it off. Can't remember who's waiting to sign this off at the moment. So let's say, yeah, we don't want that sign-off person to do it. Just say that. That's that. Okay, where we go? If I add myself. Okay. So this little item here, this little icon in the corner, doesn't do anything. It just lets you know on the title page that somewhere in the support plan is a high risk item. So you've created a plan, you've published your plan, you've got it signed off where you needed to, you've gone back and edited where you needed to, you've double checked your logs to make sure you know who did what when. Then a certain amount of time's passed, you need to review your plan, and that's really, really simple. So a review, like a plan review within iplanit works similar to a note. So when you record your daily notes that we looked at previously, it's the same process, except we're reviewing this particular plan and use this button here. The bottom right hand icon, if we click on that, I can now add a note, add a log. This isn't the previous private, yes, no. Again, notes and logs don't pull through yet, but they might do one day. So we just set the previous level. And here you can say, you know, MDT review with Anne's mum, social worker. Plan is working well. No major changes. Blah 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 blah. You know, you might just make some small changes. You know, we're just gonna make sure. Oh no, just say like, you know, slight update to college day, something like that. Whatever. And when you reviewed the plan, whether it's as part of a meeting or whether it's part of just like an informal review at the end of the month, something like that, and then you just click on save, and there we go. Obviously, your handwriting will be much better than mine. Your typing, sorry. And that information pulls all the way back through. We go right back to the first training session in the series, refresher training, where you've got the different types of notes and logs. We saw how the outcome notes last time pull through automatically from outcomes. Here are your plan notes. You can go and view topics. So in time, you'll start building up a list of every time you've reviewed each plan, even if you reviewed old plans and which have now been replaced, you'll still have all the reviews that you did of the old plans. You've got a nice audit trail to evidence that you're reviewing plans, that you're adding notes, that you're talking to family members about them, that you're talking to social workers, you know, you're updating and keeping on top of it. And it all pulls through here automatically. You can't add one from here. You can only view, you see. But that's where they all sit. And the one last thing, you may be due a review, and you'll know when you're due a review because you'll get an alert in your panel here. If it's someone you work with, and if you're a manager for people that you're responsible for at that site, you'll get an alert saying this plan is coming up for review or you passed it. But let's say, look, you haven't got a chance to review it, you're going to move the date out a month. That's this button at the top, review plan. You're going to say here, we're going to add a new review date here. The reason, let's say there's been a change of request. If you're reviewing early, sorry, let's say why are we reviewing early? Because we've had a safeguarding incident, because customers requested we change it. If you're reviewing it late, it would say why reviewing late. It might be the person wasn't available. It could be the person was unwell. It could be that you're waiting for a manager. And just put a note in, you know, customer request, just, you know, and was a bit worried about X, Y, and Z, so she asked for a review. So we're actually going to do it in November now, so review date. And so we've just updated the date. We've got a little note. So again, this is all about building really full audit trails. You can evidence really simply, just a quick note. It takes 5 seconds, and once you're used to the system, 5 seconds just to say, yeah, I've moved the date out, or we've brought it forward because of this. Then when it comes to audit time, or it comes to CQC inspection time, or it comes to, oh, there's been an incident, oh, what happened with the plan, why wasn't it reviewed? You can just go, oh, right, okay, it was reviewed late because the person was ill, it was reviewed early because the person required, blah, 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 blah. So you've got really nice, useful information, really useful data to keep everyone safe, but it's really easy to record, because in real life, you know, you probably don't complete a plan every day anyway. You probably don't even read a full plan every time you work with someone. So you're just looking out for updates, you're just looking out for reviews, and it's a really quick process. So let's say you've been working with Anne, you've been off for a couple of days, and there's been some changes to a plan. When you go to your dashboard of recent activity, we look at your recent activity, which I've just remembered doesn't work on the test system. But in recent activity, so if you work with Anne, then any changes that have been made to the system, to a support plan, to a risk assessment, will show up in recent activity in the real and your live system that does actually work. Okay. So if we go as a manager, if you're looking at the manager's dashboard, you can see here, just from the, if you go to my people, this will take you through to all the people that you work with, that you're responsible for, and now I can see, okay, how many plans has this person got? So if someone's, we've got 4 overdue plans, 2 unpublished and 2 published. Probably need to have a little look at that, find out what that is. We've got a really quick look at, where are the risks, so we can identify who we need to keep an eye on as a manager, making sure we're on top of their reviews and things. We can see how many sign-off requests have been made. So we can see this plan here. We've got 1 sign-off pending on that one, or we've got some that have been rejected. So it's really useful as a navigation tool, as an overview tool as to what's happening with people's plans. If you're an area manager, something like that, you can zoom down. You can say, I just want to see all the plans for this particular area here, or whatever it may be. So we've had a look at reviewing a plan. We've had a look at logging a plan. We've had a look at looks at the audit trail and things like that. So really, the last thing to look at again is sort of it'd probably be more of a management role and things like that. Just to see if you go to the reports dashboard, or from here, you have a whole section on plan reporting. So as a manager, or as an area manager, or as a senior, you can, if you're whoever's got access to reporting, from here you can see how many of each type of plan have we got. All of the different sections have been filled out. We can see how many risks and hazards have been identified. We can then zoom in who's got this type of plan. There we go. So we can see how many plans that, you can even see, even down, we can report the extract data on, personal care. We've got 603 different plans that have got personal care fully completed. And so there's a lot of plan reporting data. You can see how many have been archived. You can see what's been published. So all of the data that you enter goes somewhere. So I know sometimes, especially with support staff and senior staff, and you're just concentrating on the people that you work with and meeting their outcomes and supporting them to have a good life, putting that information in somewhere doesn't take long, and this is the really rich sort of data you can get out. This is how you prove to everyone else how good you are, basically. This is how we say, look at how everyone's got a support plan, everyone's got their risks identified, none of them are overdue. Don't forget, this is a test system, so you wouldn't have as many overdue as that. So all of this reporting is really showing off about how good outward staff are, and all of that information you've been putting in, this is where it all comes out on the other side. So that really is all there is to see on plans. It's a nice, simple process. Create a new plan, fairly straightforward. Once you've completed your plan and your risk assessment, you publish your plan. You then review it with the notes, and then any changes you need to make, you can bring it to life for the person using media. And just before we finish up, I will show you on our demo system what a person will see if they log in. Now, the support plans will look slightly different. As I said, each iplanit system is configured completely individually for that provider. So what we can see here, Joe's now logged in. I can now see my plan. So when you created a plan the first time and it says give this plan title, that is where it appears. So you could call it Joe's plan, you could call it my plan, but something that everyone can understand. So we open up the plan, and now we have the plan sections. You can see that they're nice and bold, really nice and clear, but you can see out of all of the sections we've got that are pulled through, there are fewer here than there are on the start line. That's because only the sections that have got information in them pull through. And now this is how Joe would go through and look at his plan. So this is where the preview button comes in really useful. Have I written this in a really nice, accessible way? I haven't got huge blocks of text. I'm not referred to all the time in the third person or he, at least with my name as a bare minimum. If you're not going to write with I, at least we know. And we see we've got the images here used to bring it to life. But Joe can also add his own, if he wants to add some media to his own, just as a reminder, he's got a picture of going to watch Manchester United. I don't know why you take a picture of that, but then you can add that into it. And then you can work through all the different sections. So obviously your sections are slightly different, but you can see the information is nice and clear, nice and accessible, brought to life with those images. We looked at outcomes last week, so this is where the outcomes pull through, and you can see how far we're getting on with them. We can see the actions that we're going to be doing and who's going to be helping us with those actions. internal messaging system. So from here, Joe can send messages to his support team, or to people he's invited. We'll look at this in a bit more detail when we look at the person portal. But where we were looking at what's private, what's not private, this refers to people that Joe invites. So Joe has so far already invited Lynn, who's his mum, and Paul, who's his dad. So when they can set up a login and they can see this page as well. So they can see what's on Joe's plan. They can see how he's doing working towards his outcomes. They can even send him a message, or they can message the support team directly as well. They can see what he's got going up in his calendar. But when Joe invites them, all of those areas where we said private, not private, it's not for the staff. Anyone who works with Joe can see the whole support plan, can see all the outcomes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much use with it. From here, we can say, right, I'm going to invite my cousin Bob. All I need is Bob's email. Blah, blah, blah. Now, Joe can now decide all of those things I said were private. He can say, yeah, actually, I don't mind. My mum knows about it. But actually, it's my cousin Bob. I don't really want him to know some of the private things that I've got in my support plan. Like I said, that my personal care routine was private. I've said that some of my behavioural support plan is private. I don't want everyone knowing about that. So he can say, but I want Bob to be involved. I want him to, be included in the rest of my support plan and my outcomes. But I'm just going to say I'm going to invite him, but he can't see all of the stuff I said private. And you send an invite, Bob gets an email, and then he can set up his own login. He can then communicate, he can see what's going on, and you sort of bring that circle of support together in a more inclusive way. So that's what it looks like. Obviously, again, apologies for any confusion, but we had to use a demo system because Outwards aren't up and running on the person side as of yet. But we're going to take a bit more of a look at that in the next section. So that really, for today, is support planning. Nice and simple processes. Just keep your practice up. Just a nice refresher on all of the processes that are involved, and then also some of the reporting and some of the analysis functions they are. So thank you very much. I'll make the recordings available to you as soon as they're ready.